Hey guys, my name is Nick and welcome back to the channel. And if you've been following over the last month or so, you'd have seen my hobby goals for 2020. And hobby goal number one was to finish up my Tzeentch Daemons. I had a whole bunch of models that I hadn't completed yet, and they were in various stages of completion, anything from completely non-primed, non-built in some cases, and then some with a little bit of paint on, and they'd just all been put away. Flavour of the month had come out, and I'd moved on to something a bit more exciting. So one of the things I wanted to do was wrap this project up, and that's exactly what I've done. So in this video, we're going to go through a little bit of a showcase and show you my 4,700 points worth of Tzeentch Daemons. So let's get straight into the video. So here we go then, this is the full Monty. This is the entire collection, the 4,700 points I mentioned in the opening commentary. So yeah, you can see all across the front here, I've got two Demon Princes, I've got a Fate Skimmer, a Change Caster and a Fate Weaver, blue Scribes, a Changeling, that's all across the front. Across the back are two Lords of Change, Kairos Fate Weaver, Untitled the big Forge World Super Chicken. And then we move across the left, we've got all the Flamer elements. We've got three Exalted Flamers, a Burning Chariot, regular Flamers, and then across the right we've got sort of the fast attack stuff with three lots of 9 Screamers, then all the infantry in the middle. So we're going to go through a few close-ups then. So we've got the first one, which is the Winged Demon Prince with a pair of talons. I often use him in my Thousand Suns force, but he fits nicely over here as well. Then we have the Changeling. Then we have the Blue Scribes. Now the Blue Scribes is a complete plastic conversion. I do have a video on how to do that conversion. Leftover pieces basically from the Start Collecting set. Then we have a Change Caster, which is basically a Tzeentch Herald on foot, which is your base sorcerer model. Then we have the Fate Skimmer. That's the one. He is the guy that's on a disc. No, sorry, Fate Weaver is on the disc. A Fate Skimmer is the guy that is on the chariot that is led by the Screamers. All came out of the Start Collecting box. I bought 3 Start Collecting box sets. Then finally, just in a slightly different paint scheme, is another Demon Prince. As I said, we move into sort of the Flamer element on the left-hand side. Then I've got 9 Flamers. Mainly because the 3 Start Collecting sets come with 3 Flamers in each. Behind that we have 3 Exalted Flamers, and then finally the Burning Chariot, which is this guy on the similar kind of disc that the Fate Skimmer comes with. And then right at the very back of this left-hand flank is the latest Lord of Change that I've painted, the one that is in pink. Then we move across the back, and this time we move into Kairos Fate Weaver. It's the same kit as the Lord of Change. This one has a slightly different weapon. He's got 2 heads and posed slightly differently. There's some more close-ups coming up a little bit later on. Then we have Untitled, the big super Forge World Chicken. Really shows its age compared to a lot of the new sculpts, doesn't he? And then finally, my second Lord of Change, which is in the sort of the original GW blue and green colours. And again, more pictures coming up of that. We move into the fast attack element, and I picked up a whole bunch of these second hand off of a Facebook trading group, so it gave me the opportunity to max out on all the fast attack slots with 3 squads of 9 Screamers, all in different colours, so if I do run all of them, there's no question of who's in which unit. I've got a bit of a blue theme going on, and different themes really, just to identify each of them, but it is a unified kind of colour palette. The same kind of colours are used all the way across the range. Right at the start of 8th edition, Brimstone Horrors were all the rage. Although I didn't play competitively, I did collect a fair number. I've actually got 60 Brimstones. When 8th edition did drop, they were 4+ invulnerable save. They were all the rage. That got nerfed pretty quick. I am missing 3 blue horrors. I think they've been swept up by a hoover, or they're down the back of my desk, but they are floating around somewhere. But in the meantime, that means I've got 37 and not 40. And then finally, one of the things I did finish this month was finishing 15 pink horrors to make the blob of 30. And again, all out of the Start Collecting set, because you got 10 in each set, which made 30. And most of those had been sat around doing not a lot. So we move into some of the close-ups then. This is my latest Lord of Change. This is the big super pink chicken. Just imagine him sort of being a super boss Fate skimmer who's been given a bit of a gift, and he's now been elevated to a Lord of Change. So yeah, a very similar colour palette across the board once again. Lots of pinks, lots of this kind of greeny, ethereal kind of colour that sort of matches in, but is enough of a difference so that everything doesn't look too samey. So a few extra pictures, because this hasn't appeared on the channel before, so I've got a few extra good pictures of this guy. Moving on to the second Lord of Change then. This is one that I did quite some time ago, really thinking about it. Well, it was at least last year. Bear in mind that I started this whole demon project around in 2017 sometime. I've got a really old video in the back catalogue of this channel with some really poor videography, shaky cams and everything else. But you can sort of cast your mind back 2.5 years ago, I guess, when this project really kicked off. But these big chickens didn't get done until 2019, so getting these done is a good thing in my opinion. They are very characterful. They do make the army what it is. Are they any good in combat? Any good in the game? Still very much up for debate for me. But you know what? If you're doing a Tzeentch Daemon's army, you need big chickens. We also have Kairos Fate Weaver, which is the big double-headed version of this. He is basically the daddy of the Lord of Changes. Comes with all the powers. He knows everything. That's how good he is. It's just a shame there's only 6 powers to get across your entire army, really. But he does know everything. Painted him up with his big book, so he comes, you know, that is the way you're supposed to build this guy. So I did basically follow the box art as closely as I possibly could. And there's a nice little picture of his little of his book with all of his magical powers within. So yeah, another one that was done fairly recently, given the project, sort of the second half of the project really, getting this guy done, mostly following our former Lord and Saviour Duncan Rhodes' scheme, but with a little bit of a twist, a little bit of extra detail. Finally, in the big chicken section is Atios Raul Perez. Exceptionally expensive in points. You don't see him in pretty much any game, let's be honest. Super powerful, super big, and that's the reason you don't see him, because he kind of breaks the game. But yeah, I went full kilter with sort of the celestial effect on this guy, very similar to the way that I do my knights in Technique, but just applied a little bit differently, so it makes him look a bit more magical compared to the type of technique that I went with on my Titans. But another one that was completed last year that had been sat around in my collection in the cupboard for, well, at least since the start of the project. I think I bought him really early on when I started getting these models. Then we move into the flamers, some close-ups of the Burning Chariot. This is basically an Exalted Flamer on disc. I don't rate him as much as I do the ones that are on foot, because he loses his character keyword, so he can be shot. But he does gain some extra wounds and so on. And obviously he can move a bit quicker. But one of the new ones that I did paint as part of this year's challenge was that third Exalted Flamer. I had the 2 previously, but now I've added that third one. That fills out that extra slot in that Elites section. But yeah, painted exactly the same as all the others. Quite happy with the way that I've managed to remember to do that. There is a full painting guide on how I do flamers on this channel. I'll leave any kind of pertinent videos in the description below, so you can catch up on some of the previous painting guides that I've done for this army. We have 9 flamers, 6 of which are a very similar scheme, and then we've got 3 that are a bit more red. Again, that enables you to run sort of 3 units of 3, or at least 2 units of 3, without confusion about which model belongs in what. Maybe I might go over one of those 3 with a slightly darker blue or a yellowy or orange or something, just to make them stand out a bit, so you can run 3 units of 3 without any confusion. And that was all the flamers all put together. A few cheeky detachment kind of examples coming up now. So running some of the heralds with certain units, it provides really good combinations. I've done a few tactical breakdowns in my in-depth series on how some of these combinations work. For example, with the Flamers and the Herald, he's basically going to be doing flickering flames on this unit for that added wound roll. And yeah, just adds a few buffs and bits and pieces to them. Then we move into the fast attack. We've got all these Screamers floating around now. So we've got that big one unit, the earlier unit that I did of the blue ones. In January, I did complete the other 18. They'd all been sat around. Some were primed, some were not primed. So pretty much they were painted from scratch. Some of them had literally nothing on them. I had to add a few new bases. You can spot a couple of slightly more orangey ones in there, where the ratio of yellow to orange wasn't quite the same as the others, but it still looks very unified. So a few extra bases had to be made. And another example of a couple of characters that can really do well with Screamers, needing to keep up with their immense speed. So the Winged Demon Prince and the Herald on disc can almost keep up toe to toe, especially if they advance or warp time. In fact, warp time's not in this army. Warp time is a 1,000 Suns rule, but as long as they can keep up with their wings, they can keep up and buff those Screamers. And then a really cheap way of making a battalion is 2 cheap Heralds and 3 units of 10 Brimstone Horrors. That's pretty cheap. You could do it, switch one out for a Change Caster. He's very cheap as well, 100 points I believe. So this is pretty much as cheap as you can get a basic battalion for Tzeentch Demons. And then finally my pink Horror Bomb, which is something that comes out of reserve and causes the pain. So there we go then guys, that is it's actually just over 4,700. I think according to Battle Scribe it's 4,727 points in total. That's basically because of the types of war gear I've taken on the Lords of Change. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. I've cranked out one of these projects to completion. In fact, this army, I don't own any other demon models for Tzeentch, so I'm really happy that this army is now complete. I'm a little bit disappointed I can't make a brigade, because I don't have those extra heavy support. Now you can only take 4 different types of heavy support in this army, 2 of which don't even have models, and the other 2 are soul grinders, and I'm not really a big fan of that type of model, and I don't really want to spend the money on extra Burning Chariots. But you know, maybe one day I might come back to this if models come out for the giant chaos spined beast or whatever it's called. One of those 2 types of models. I think Forge World used to do them. They don't do them anymore. So yeah, I can't really fill out that those last 2 heavy support options, which I'd love to have been able to do, but alas, the model option just isn't there. But there we go. There's plenty of detachments that I can field. I've got lots of troops that I can fill out. 10 characters in total, or 10 HQ type models, and everything else that has at least 3 options. So that's a wrap. So I hope you enjoyed the pictures. I hope you enjoyed this showcase. They are by no means a top tier kind of army. They are purely for funsies at the moment. I'm hoping that Psychic Awakening does bring something exciting for the Tzeentch Demons, the mono faction players like myself. But otherwise I'm going to have to sort of mix in some of these into my 1,000 Suns, and even then, are they going to do any good? Who knows? But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I shall see you guys on the next video.